September 5th, 2023. Commissioner Fye?
Present.
Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here.
And I'll announce Commissioner Rogers is on vacation and is excused from today's meeting.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Well, folks, as you may notice, I have a mask on today. It's because I got the news yesterday that a set of folks that I had dinner with on Saturday evening came down with COVID, tested positive yesterday. So to help all of us stay healthy, I'm trying to make sure I'm not passing on any such germs. No symptoms, no COVID with me yet, though. So, but abundance of caution. We have variants out there in the world. So please, everyone, be safe. Just a few things before we get started. We're doing something today a little bit differently. Item F2 will be taking action through the normal course, but we have chosen to have a presentation on item F2 before we start public communication, so that everyone who chooses to testify, whether in person or online, has the full benefits of facts. And that includes commissioners asking clarifying questions of staff. So without further ado, I would like to call up our staff for a presentation on item F2, which is a proposal for approving the purchase of real property located at 1103 Elm Street and 1105 Elm Street in Forest Grove for affordable housing, which may include permanent supportive housing, and authorize the board chair or designee to execute all closing documents. So I'd like to welcome our two subject matter experts who will introduce themselves for the record. Please.
Thank you, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. Good morning. For the record, my name is Greg Wyman. I'm the Real Estate and Planning Manager at Washington County. Today I'll be presenting a quick staff report with the assistance of Jess Larson, our Assistant Housing Director, on the purchase of the property as noted at 1103 and 1105 Elm Street. On April 5th, 2013, subject to your board's authorization, the county entered into a purchase and sale agreement with purchase price of $1,450,000 for two adjacent tax lots located at 1103 and 1105 Elm Street, Forest Grove. An appraisal of these properties commissioned by the county and completed by Arvid and Associates on April 5th, 2023, valued the properties combined at $1,480,000, a value of $30,000 more than the contract purchase price. An earnest money deposit of $50,000 in the form of a promissory note convertible to cash was deposited in escrow on April 11th, 2023. The conditions to purchase or the feasibility period of this purchase and sale agreement include, among other things, a property inspection, environmental assessments, zoning review, delivery of the property free of all leases, tenants, and encumbrances, and the final approval of your board. The feasibility period expires on September the 14th, and your board's authorization to move forward with the closing will satisfy the remaining conditions to purchase required by this PSA. If approved, the closing would occur on or about October 5th, 2023.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, Chair, Board of Commissioners. For the record, my name is Jess Larson. I'm your Assistant Director in the Department of Housing Services and use she and her pronouns. Pleased to be with you today. So as Greg described, we've completed the due diligence feasibility study period of time as we've been looking at the potential purchase of this property. And we've come forward as staff to recommend this property as suitable to meet our programmatic needs. And my role today is to describe what those programmatic needs are that we're hoping this property would serve. As you're well aware, In our supportive housing services program work, we are working to quickly scale up our capacity for permanent supportive housing. This is long-term housing capacity that pairs rent assistance and case management services on site so that we have the maximum supports needed to help households recovering from homelessness to attain stable housing. We have a long-term goal to achieve 500 permanent supportive housing placements in Washington County using the supportive housing services resources, and we have a variety of methods to do so through new development, but also through partnerships with existing development to pair those services where affordable housing already exists in our community, and also through some acquisition, which are projects that you're also familiar with. So this potential purchase fits into those variety of approaches that we have in Washington County to increase our capacity to create permanent supportive housing. And there's some examples of other projects on site, in existence or underway and planned across the county. And there are more that are in pre-development consideration that also aren't on this list. So again, to just reframe the program and the purpose, our goal is to achieve 500 permanent supportive housing units in Washington County as a part of our affordable housing inventory and a part of our ARLA strategy, our long-term rent assistance program. And land banking is one of those approaches that help us to plan, secure property and plan for long-term development of permanent supportive housing. The site we would propose to be land banked, to be acquired for the purpose of planning for a future development of permanent supportive housing. There is the possible, I'm going to quickly scroll forward, there is the possible temporary need for the use of the property as a shelter program, such as a Safe Rest Village, though there is no potential use of the property for that reason for the next year at the minimum, and may not ever need to be used in that capacity. So today we're asking the board to consider the property purely for the purpose of land banking for development as a permanent supportive housing project. And if there's any change in our need for short-term sheltering use in Washington County, we will look at our total inventory and bring that back to the board for your consideration at a future date, though we don't anticipate that need in Western Washington County, at least for the next year. So that's not part of our presentation today or part of the potential use. So going forward, if the board takes action today on purchasing this property, our steps in the program would first be to engage our neighbors at the property. We've met with them earlier this summer when the due diligence process began, or the feasibility work that Greg was describing. We'd like to go back and let them know that we've taken possession of the property and what our short-term and long-term plans for the property are, to be very transparent and communicative with those neighbors. We'd also like to begin immediately looking at the funding possibilities to align resources to create a permanent supportive housing project as soon as possible, because that is our greatest need. And then also we will work with our colleagues in facilities to support any assessment of the property to make sure that while it is held, that it is maintained safely for the community, and any property needs are addressed while we hold the property. So I think that's the total of our brief presentation for you today, and will remain if there are any questions.
Thank you, staff. Commissioners, do you have any questions on this topic?
I do.
Or
Just real
comments?
quick.
Go ahead, yeah.
Jess, and Greg, I may have missed this, so I apologize. There are people on the property right now, correct? And that's the leases that you had to get taken care of? And so are they going to stay there for this extended period of time, or are we going to kind of vacate this property?
The seller has given us notice that that tenant has vacated, and I did go out to the property last week on Thursday and verify that the property is now vacant. They were on a month-to-month lease, and they chose to go ahead and leave the property knowing that it was going to be sold.
Okay. Are we going to go in and do some cleanup on this, do any fencing, or is there anything that we're going to do to the property in the interim?
As Jess noted, yes, we will make a complete assessment of the property, determine the needs. There are a couple of what I would consider attractive nuisances now. There's a couple of old sheds and a tree house on the property existing that really need to be taken down for safety's sake and to avoid an attractive nuisance. And the house would be secured, weatherized to make sure that it gets through the winter period without any freezing pipes or anything. And then we would secure that so that no one could have access to that house.
Great, okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner questions or comments? Okay. I just want to thank you, staff, for your flexibility in being here early in the meeting so that our community members have the benefit of understanding that there are no plans, nor do we have a foreseeable need out today and into the future for siting a Safe Rest Village at this site, that the purpose for this acquisition is indeed for affordable housing. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And also, before we start our public comment period, we work hard here at Washington County to make sure that our meetings are welcoming for all to attend, whether in person or virtually, and also to ensure that our community members know that we are here to do the work of the people, and that includes listening to the whole variety of viewpoints that exist. We want a free and open environment here as part of that, and as such, we ask that there be no clapping or other cheering or other such action, because it may make that one person who is trying to decide if they want to speak up, share their view, or even just be in the room to attend. So please hold your comments, applause, and otherwise to help ensure that we achieve our goal in having a welcoming, free, and open environment for all. And with that, Clerk Moss, could you please let us know if we have any folks for our first of two public comment periods?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. The first two I will call up will be Dale Feek and Ella Hoffer. So both of you can come forward. Ms. Feek, you can go first.
May I clarify? I'm 2 minutes. Are they 5 minutes?
No, we are all 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair Harrington and Commissioners Vi, Willie, Harrington, Therese, and thank you for Commissioner Willie for welcoming me back for a little time in the work session. My comments today have to do with two things: Intel and their air contaminant prevention and significant deterioration permit and their emissions, and also the youth that sued Montana over climate change and are winning. And I sent an email, forwarded to you, to our federal and our state legislators, and I actually forwarded to you what I said and sent to them. Intel is proposing to increase their greenhouse gas emissions from 819,000 tons per year to about 1,700,000 tons per year. That's been calculated 1.5 tons previously, now it'll be about 3 tons per minute of greenhouse gas emissions they'll be able to do. Boardman, when the coal plant put about 1.2 million tons of greenhouse gases in the air. To see the other major increases in hazard emissions, Intel's request in the permit application, I gave you the link to that. Also sent a separate email to Kevin, and you'll have it, and put it in your packet so you can actually read the emissions. You have that, you can actually read them. Note that Intel is doubling most of the emissions and sometimes tripling them. For instance, fluorides from 6.4 to 12.2 tons per year, volatile organic compounds from 178 to 349 tons per year, PM 10, 35 to 57 tons per year. That's the small particles that go inside your lungs and you really can't get them out. The Montana lawsuit, I know you, Pam, Commissioner Treese, were involved, really concerned about that. It's a landmark case. Please take a look at it. I gave you links. It's encouraging. Thank you for your time.
Chair Harrington and Commissioners, thank you for hearing us this morning. I'm testifying about action item F2. I just wanted to start by saying I don't understand how that's considered affordable, $1.4 million for 2 tax lots in the city. I hope that you do look at the environmental studies closely because there were hydraulic leaks from tanks in there for a long time. And also, it's my understanding that the sewer system of Forest Grove ends at that tax lot. Thirdly, I want to mention that there are 10 beautiful registered historic homes adjacent to this proposed high-density affordable housing you want to put in, which will definitely decrease the property value of everybody within, 1,000 feet of the site. It is not compatible with what's going on there at all. Also, we have over 100-year-old park there that is used constantly by children, elderly, and you're putting all those people at risk for safety, having homeless, vagrant people who are not interested in getting better. This low barrier place that you have proposed, you have no definite indicators that you're not going to do that, therefore we have to assume you will. Finally, there's just no transparency in your notice. Half the people around there that I've knocked on their doors don't even know what's going on. If you call, I don't know why you need to be doing land banking now when this county is so in debt. Okay, so none of it makes sense. You should not, I oppose this totally, that you purchase this land. You don't need it. You need to pay your bills first. And really, truly, the fact of the matter is your litany of bad decisions regarding the homeless is exhausting, and therefore we have no other recourse but to sue the county, the governor, the city of Forest Grove, and every other place you're trying to put pod camps and destroy neighborhoods. Thank you.
Yes, they receive it. All right, would any other members in the auditorium which should provide public testimony for 2 minutes on any county-related topic? Anyone raise hand coming forward? No. So Madam Chair, we'll move to our 2 online. So first up we have Russell Akamoto. Russell, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Okay. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Russell Okamoto. On August 7th, nearly a month ago, I filed a Policy 212 complaint with OEICE. As you know, Administrative Procedure 212-A says, quote, after a complaint is filed, the Chief Equity Officer or Designee will make every effort to meet with the complainant and respondent within 15 business days of receipt to discuss the details of the complaint and explore options for resolution. More than 20 business days have passed since I filed my complaint, and at this time I have yet to meet with the Chief Equity Officer or Designee to discuss the details of my complaint and explore options for resolution. I do not know if the Chief Equity Officer or Designee has made, quote, every effort to meet with the respondent. I'm completely unaware of any actions taken and timeline of future events regarding my complaint. The only reply to my complaint I received was an email on August 14th from Latricia Tillman requesting background information, which I replied with that afternoon. Whereas the county has been unresponsive to my complaint over the last month, Beaverton School District has been busy erecting wire fencing at each home abutting the Oak Hills Elementary Schoolyard. Last week, the school district forced me to cut limbs off my 50-year-old fruit trees to make way for metal fence posts placed along my backyard. As I speak to you now, the district is 16 feet away from my kitchen window, erecting 6-foot chain link fencing on these posts, unjustly reincarcerating my family in our backyard. While the county lauds itself and proudly proclaims its commitment to fair treatment, equal protection, and non-discrimination, approving Policy 212 and investing $197,555 of taxpayer money into the Chief Equity Officer position for 2022, in practice, the county's administrative complaint process is token, perfunctory, and feckless. I request immediate facilitation of a resolution process for my complaint and to proceed with a formal complaint and investigation conducted by the county as per policy 212-A, approved by all of you on June 27th, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yakamoto. Ms. Angie and Mr. Anderson, could you get back to us no later than next week as to the status of this item?
Yes, Chair. County Council and I have been taking notes during this comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Next, Madam Chair, we have Juan Moreno Almeida. Juan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much, Kevin.
You're welcome. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Juan Pedro Moreno Olmeda, and I was born and raised here in Hillsboro, Oregon. For the last couple of months, we have been engaging with tenants from Bonita Villa Apartments and Tiger to learn more about the barriers and the problems they continue to experience with the property management company Cascade. Tenants at Bonita Villa have dealt with many inhumane living conditions for not just a couple of days or weeks, but years. Mold, which has destroyed their food and belongings, flooding during the rain season, sewage smells, rotting floors, sinking ceilings, and much, much more. After years and even decades for some of the tenants, the renovation began for Bonita Villa, and the planning for it was terrible, not the best. And a result of this, many families have been continuously moved from apartment to apartment and are now staying in a hotel. However, just a couple weeks ago, many families received a message from Cascade's relocation team saying that they're going to be moved once again, and that all their stuff that was moved into a storage unit would also be moved into these new apartments at the Ridge Apartments. And many of these apartments are going to be one-bedroom apartments that are only 840 square feet. And they're trying to fit multiple families of 5 in a one-bedroom apartment with all of their personal belongings. And it just doesn't make sense to me how 5 people are supposed to fit in there with all of their stuff, and they have babies. It's just a danger zone for them. And really what I'm here to ask for is that we have better housing laws that are consistent and clear across different jurisdictions. Tualatin has a different overcrowding law than Tiger does, and it's not consistent across different cities. So I think it's very important for us, and maybe a priority, to create a new housing law that is more that could fit more people into these spaces, because it's not fair that 5 people have to be fit into just one-bedroom apartments. And also, if we can do anything about Cascade being the management company, I think that should be changed as well. There's so much more I can say, but thank you so much for your time.
Right.
If I understood this correctly, this is relative to an apartment complex called The Ridge at Bull Mountain, which I believe is under the Housing Authority of Washington County. If you could get back to us next week with some information on this, that might help us. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Would any other members of our public wish to provide comment for up to 2 minutes? I'll give you just one last chance for last raise of hands online. Not seeing any additional hands, Madam.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next, we have our consent agenda. We do need to pull item C14, which is relative to a design engineering services for Shoals Ferry Road, Tile Flat to Roy Rogers Road project. So that will leave us with 16 items for today's agenda. One set of minutes, 3 items from Clean Water Services, 2 items for Health and Human Services, 1 item from Community Development, 1 item from our Finance Department, 1 item from Facilities, Fleet, and, 2 items from Facilities, Fleet, and Parks, 1 item from Community Corrections, 1 item from Human Resources, and 3 items from Land Use and Transportation. What are the wishes of the Commission?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raising your hand. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we're going to move on to proclamations. And this being the month of September, I'd like to invite our staff, Dora Perry our interim Chief Equity Inclusion Officer, and Amanda Garcia Snell, our Community Engagement Manager, up to the table. Also, Dora, Ms. Perry, this is your first business meeting before us today and our community. Please do feel free to introduce yourself. We're very happy to have you here helping us on our journey in leading the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and serving as our interim Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, and the board. Is really a pleasure and an honor to be here. My name is Dora Perry. I have been working in the Portland region for over 30 years. Went to school here, did my graduate work here, and then I decided to settle in and do a lot of community-related work, and also have a very eclectic background. Besides being having my graduate work in housing and community development, I really decided to pour my life into service to the communities that has also supported me for a long time. So I have worked for corporate America, for nonprofit organization, and my last stint was the city of Portland, which I was there for off and on for about 13 years, and ended up as the equity and inclusion manager before I decided to go into private consulting. And so that is the work that I've done pre-COVID and up till now before I was asked if I could come and fill in for the departing Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. And it was my privilege because I've done a few work with some of the departments here. Really enjoyed the work, enjoyed the people, and the kindness that have been shown to me since I come from the staff, and some of the board members that I've met have really helped me to feel that I might have a place that I can belong for a few months, hopefully, before the new person is brought on. So thank you for the warm welcome, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
For Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're often honored to have members of our community read the proclamation. So I would ask you to invite whomever you would like to come up and read our proclamation today.
Great. Thanks, Chair Harrington. I would like to, there are two people that are coming out.
And we do have some additional chairs to bring up to the table as well. And I would like to say to our community members, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us today in order to make sure that we are honoring September 15th through October 15th of this year as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you again, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. For the record, again, my name is Dora Perry. I'm the interim Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. I am pleased to offer a few introductory remarks on our cultural heritage celebrations before I turn it over to Odalis Aguilera and Carla Martinez, who are sitting right behind me, to read the proclamation. Following the reading, Maria Elena Baptista, who is a Civic 2023 leadership graduate from Adelante Mujeres Leadership Program, will share some remarks. Washington County cultural heritage celebrations and resources pages are an important starting point for our collective organizational engagement and learning about equity, diversity, and inclusion. The Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations will enjoy this month. We enjoyed this month, have been planned and organized by upwards of 20 staff who volunteered to support our learning in addition to the official work. These cultural celebrations offer an opportunity to establish and maintain relationships with staff and community who identify as Hispanic, Latinx, or both, to build trust and deepen our understanding of these diverse and growing communities in Washington County. These cultural celebrations also create an opportunity to learn about the historic and present operation of Hispanic community and communities' resilience in the face of that oppression, so that we can reflect on whether or not our current policies and sentiments support the well-being of the Hispanic community and dismantle racism and white supremacy. No culture is monolithic. All cultures, ethnicities, and nationalities encompass a range of diverse life experiences and opinions. More than 33 countries and far more ethnicities are included within the Hispanic Latinx community. Consequently, the celebrations and resources page for Hispanic Heritage Month celebration may not present a comprehensive picture of the nuances or full range of opinions within any cultural or subculture. However, we do know the Heritage Month Committee are thoughtful and the learning opportunities they share with our Washington County community. We encourage people who may be curious about what is or is not presented or the policy implications of what is shared this month to reach out to us at the Office of Equity and Inclusion and Community Engagement, OEICE, or open a dialogue with colleagues and or the planning committees. I want to thank all the members of the committees who worked very hard and met over the past few weeks. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Odalis and Isabella to read the proclamation. They will read it in both, one will read it in English and one will interpret in Spanish. Over to you.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Odalisa Aguilera. I work for the nonprofit Adelante Mujeres in Forest Grove. I'm a business coach and food specialist, so that entails that I help Latinas in the community thrive through their business through food. And this is Carla, one of our participants. A proclamation in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Una proclamación en honor del mes de la herencia hispana.
Whereas each year, the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, as well as those who came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America.
Por cuanto cada año los Estados Unidos observa el Mes Nacional de la Herencia Hispana al celebrar la cultura, el patrimonio y las innumerables contribuciones de aquellos cuyos antepasados eran indígenas de América del Norte, así como de aquellos que vinieron de España, México, el Caribe, América Central y América del Sur.
Whereas we begin in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Johnson, was expanded by President Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15 and ending on October 15.
Y por cuanto lo que comenzó en 1968 como la Semana de la Herencia Hispana bajo el presidente Johnson y fue expandido por el presidente Reagan en 1988 para cubrir un periodo de 30 días que comienza el 15 de septiembre y termina el 15 de octubre.
Whereas the date of September 15 is significant because it's the anniversary of independence for the Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. Additionally, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September 16 and September 18, respectively, and
Y por cuanto que la fecha del 15 de septiembre es significativa porque es el aniversario de la independencia de los países latinoamericanos de Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras y Nicaragua. Además, México y Chile celebran sus días de independencia el 16 y 18 de septiembre respectivamente.
Whereas this year's theme, Latinos Driving Prosperity, Powering Progress in America, encourages all to connect with our Hispanic heritage and focus on the themes of prosperity, power, and progress, recognizing the significant strides of the Hispanic in economic, political, and social growth in the United States.
Y considerando que el tema de este año, Latinos, impulsando la prosperidad, el poder y el progreso en Estados Unidos, nos alienta a todos a conectarnos con nuestra herencia hispana y enfocarnos en los temas de prosperidad, poder y progreso, reconociendo los avances significativos de los hispanos en el crecimiento económico, político y social de los Estados Unidos.
Whereas we recognize and honor many ways that Hispanics have enriched the fabric of our society while also dedicating ourselves to address the lack of equal access to opportunity that many still face. And
por cuanto que reconocemos y honramos las muchas formas en las que los hispanos han enriquecido la estructura de nuestra sociedad y al mismo tiempo nos dedicamos nuevamente a abordar la falta de igualdad de acceso a las oportunidades que muchos todavía enfrentan.
Whereas the Hispanic population of the United States is now 62.1 million, constituting 16.7% of the total population, specifically in Washington County. The Hispanic population is now 107,642, constituting approximately 17.9% of our total population, represents a wide range of nationalities, backgrounds, which reflect the remarkable diversity in American people.
Y por cuanto la población hispana de los Estados Unidos es ahora de 62.1 millones, lo que constituye al 16.7% de la población total, específicamente en el condado de Washington. La población hispana es ahora de 107,642, lo que constituye aproximadamente el 17.9% de nuestra población total y representa una amplia gama de nacionalidades y orígenes que reflejan la notable diversidad del pueblo estadounidense.
Whereas Hispanics continue their rich tradition and significant diversity contributions to cultural, educational, and economic and political vitality in Washington County.
Y por cuanto que los hispanos continúan su rica tradición de contribuciones significativas y diversas a la vitalidad cultural, educativa, económica y política del condado de Washington.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that on this 22nd day of September 2023, the Washington County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim September 15 to October 15 of this year as Hispanic Heritage Month and encourage all residents to celebrate our unique and vibrant history and recommit ourselves to the shared future of healthy, peaceful, safe, and sustainable communities for all.
Ahora, por lo tanto, se resuelve que en este día 22 de septiembre de 2023, la Junta de Comisionados del Condado de Washington proclama por la presente del 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre de 2023 como el mes de la herencia hispana y alienta a todos los residentes a celebrar nuestra historia única y vibrante y volver a comprometernos nosotros mismos hacia un futuro compartido de comunidades saludables, pacíficas, seguras y sustentables para todos.
Thank you. And now I would like to turn it over to Maria Elena Bautista for remarks.
ahí?
Sí, un párrafo tú y luego un párrafo yo.
Okay. Buenos días, Harrison, comisionado y personal. Yo soy María Elena Batista y vivo en el Distrito 4 y soy graduada en el programa de Liderazgo Cívico del 2023 como parte de la 7ª Corte de Adelante Mujeres. Me siento honrada de compartir algunas palabras en celebración del mes de la herencia hispana. Como buena venezolana, este año nos enfocamos en los temas de prosperidad, poder y progreso, reconociendo los avances significativos de los hispanos en el crecimiento económico, político, social de los Estados Unidos bajo el tema Latinos impulsado la prosperidad, el poder y el progreso en Estados Unidos.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, commissioners and staff. My name is Maria Elena and I reside in District Number 4. I am a 2023 Civic Leadership Program graduate as a part of Adelante Mujeres' 7th cohort. I am honored to be here and share a few words in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. This year we focus on the themes of prosperity, power, and progress, recognizing the significant strides of the Hispanics in the economic, political, and social growth of the U.S. under the theme Latinos, Driving Prosperity, Power, and Progress in America.
El crecimiento de nuestra población, el aumento de la representación política y el éxito económico allanan el camino para el ascenso y el reconocimiento de los hispanos como contribuyentes positivos innegables al país de las estrellas hispanas. Las estrellas hispanas, a pesar de los obstáculos, los hispanos persisten y prosperan, logrando un éxito notable en áreas que algunas veces se consideraron fuera de los límites.
Our population growth, increasing political representation, and economic success paved the way for the rise and recognition of Hispanics as undeniable positive contributors to the country Hispanic stars. Despite obstacles, Hispanics persist and thrive, achieving remarkable success in areas that were once considered off-limits, from CEOs of Fortune 500 companies to Pulitzer and Nobel Peace Prize winners. Hispanics are driving America's economic prosperity and continuously driving innovation and economic growth.
Desde director ejecutivo de compañía en Fortuna 500, que es la compañía más grande en Estados Unidos, hasta ganadores del premio Pulitzer y Nobel de la Paz. Los hispanos están impulsando la prosperidad, economía de Estados Unidos e impulsando continuamente la innovación y el crecimiento económico y la unión cultural. El mes de la herencia hispana es una oportunidad increíble para hablar con una sola voz, reconocer el papel crucial que desempeñan los hispanos con la configuración del futuro de nuestro país y del mundo, y celebrar y reconocer a los latinos como empleados, proveedores, consumidores y comunidad. Los hispanos necesitan ser vistos, escuchados y valorados, y es más probable que se involucren como individuos u organizaciones que inviertan activamente y celebren sus contribuciones a los Estados Unidos, que está impulsando la prosperidad, el poder y el progreso en su trabajo y su cultura.
Hispanic Heritage Month is an incredible opportunity to speak with one voice, acknowledge the crucial role that Hispanics play in shaping the future of our country and the world, and to celebrate and recognize Latinos as employees, suppliers, consumers, and community. Hispanics need to be seen, heard, and valued, and are more likely to engage with individuals or organizations that actively invest in and celebrate their contributions to America, which are driving prosperity, power, and progress.
Miren nuestra prosperidad. El poder económico de nuestra comunidad se fortalece cada año.
Nuestros negocios están creciendo a un ritmo sin precedentes y una fuerza laboral desde el campo de este país. Restaurantes, hospitales, escuelas, en la política y grandes empresas. Se está expandiendo rápidamente, estamos iniciando negocios para generar empleos, comprando casas e invirtiendo en nuestro futuro. Estamos impulsando la prosperidad económica de Estados Unidos e impulsando continuamente la innovación y el crecimiento económico de manera que ya no pueden ser ignoradas.
Look at our prosperity. Our community's economic power is growing stronger every year. Our businesses are growing at an unprecedented rate, and our workforce is expanding rapidly. From small startups to Fortune 500 companies, we are starting businesses, buying homes, and investing in our futures. We are driving America's economic prosperity and continuously driving innovation and economic growth in ways that can no longer be ignored.
Miren nuestro poder, nuestra comunidad está haciendo olas en todos los sectores y está ganando poder e influencia política y la sociedad, desde la política hasta el crecimiento y la tecnología. Estamos rompiendo barreras y estamos mostrando al mundo lo que somos capaces de lograr. El poder también se está concentrando en una comunidad que aporta y contribuye a una sociedad de igualdad y oportunidades, donde formamos los cimientos de la familia y futuros ciudadanos de esta gran nación que nos acobija.
Look at our power. Our community is making waves in every sector, and we are gaining power and influence in politics and society. From politics to entertainment to technology, we are breaking barriers, and we are showing the world what we are capable of achieving. Power, too, is becoming increasingly concentrated in our hands. As we continue to succeed economically, we gain control, authority, and influence over others. We are becoming a controlling group, shaping the direction of our country and making our voices heard.
Pero para liberar verdaderamente nuestro potencial, primero debemos aceptar, abrazar y reclamar nuestro poder. El paso inicial es siempre unirnos y actuar como una comunidad y estamos progresando en ese sentido. Sin embargo, después de la unificación, también debemos abrazar y ejercer y afirmar nuestro poder. Esto implica no solo comprender y celebrar nuestro lugar legítimo en la sociedad, sino también abrazar plenamente nuestro poder latino, tanto individual como colectivamente.
But to truly unleash our potential, we must first accept that our power is also being concentrated in a community that contributes and builds a society of equality and opportunities, where we form the foundations of the family and future citizens of this great nation that shelters us. And finally, look at our progress. From education to income, Latinos are advancing in a positive direction and driving American progress. Progress is inherent to Hispanics because what truly unifies us is our desire to move forward. And that is great for all because Hispanic progress is American progress.
Los latinos estamos avanzando en una dirección positiva e impulsando el progreso estadounidense. El progreso es inherente a los hispanos porque realmente nos unifica, es nuestro deseo de seguir adelante, trabajar, contribuir a este país para que nos vaya bien a todos. Y eso es genial porque porque el progreso hispano es el progreso americano y el progreso americano es el progreso hispano. Los invito a todos a ser optimistas como un hecho palpable porque es posible obtener el cambio que queremos para nuestra comunidad y nuestro país, porque a pesar de los inmensos obstáculos que enfrentamos, estamos progresando, tal vez no tan rápido como queremos, tal vez no tan apoyados como deseamos, pero nos estamos moviendo a la dirección correcta. Necesitamos unirnos en nuestros objetivos comunes, movilizar aliados, eliminar barreras, identificar y escalar facilitadores del progreso
y celebrar nuestro progreso y contribuciones continuamente. Estos tres temas, prosperidad, poder y progreso, están interconectados.
I invite all of you to be optimistic, as a fact, possibilistic, because it is possible to obtain the change we want for our community and our country. Because despite the immense obstacles we face, we are making progress. Maybe not as fast as we want, maybe not as supported as we desire, but we are moving in the right direction. We need to unify in our common objectives, mobilize allies, remove barriers, identify and scale progress enablers, and celebrate our progress and contributions continuously. These are the three themes: prosperity, power, and progress, or all interconnected.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And sir, if you could help me ensure that all of our invited guests today know that once we have the opportunity to take action on this proclamation, that I would invite our guests up for a photo.
Okay.
Do we continue?
How much more do we have? This presentation's taken quite a long time.
We'll just finish up the last piece.
Okay, thank you.
Les invitamos que se unan a nosotros para reconocer y celebrar la prosperidad, el poder y el progreso de los hispanos durante este mes especial. Y más allá, feliz mes de la herencia hispana a todos, porque todos somos hispanos.
Join us in recognizing and celebrating the prosperity, power, and progress of Hispanics during this special month and beyond. We're all Hispanics. Thank you.
Feliz día.
Have a good day.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. And at this time, I would like to invite our guests as well as our staff members involved with this to come up and take a picture to memorialize your taking the time to join us today. All right. Next, we'll move on to presentations. And this is our quarterly report from our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer and our Community Engagement Manager. Presentation on just this past quarter completed, April through June of 2023. This is part of what the Board of Commissioners asked for in order to demonstrate that we are being quite judicious and intentional in implementing our equity, diversity, and inclusion journey. So please, thank you.
Good morning again, Chair Harrington and our Board of Commissioners. Again, Dora Perry for the record. I have the pleasure of serving as the interim CEIO, and I'm here with Amanda Garcia Snell, our Community Engagement Manager, to present the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement second quarterly update for 2023. As you may recall, in our first quarterly report this year, we provided updates on our progress towards achieving the objectives laid out in the Equity Strategic Action Plan adopted by your board in August 2021, per the direction of the Equity Resolution. We also shared some initial high-level information about our process to develop an updated strategic action plan. Today, we are going to focus on the development of our next strategic action plan. As a reminder, we plan to align with the larger strategic planning process. We are using strategic action plans to structure our work and ensure we deliver on what is outlined in the Equity Resolution as this other work progresses. Although this will be a brief presentation, as always, we are very appreciative of the leadership and direction of your board, without which we would not have been able to accomplish this exciting and impactful work. And of course, we are extremely grateful for the continued and growing partnership from equity champions across the county and in the broader community. Thank you. I'm going to now pass it on to Amanda to continue the presentation.
Thanks, Dora. Okay, so as Dora mentioned, I'm Amanda Garcia Snell, Community Engagement Manager. This is a revised version of the timeline that we have shared previously. It reflects major milestones since your board adopted the equity resolution in 2020 and the proposed next steps in revising the Equity Strategic Action Plan. Not included in the timeline are some of the EDI-related policies that you have adopted and other foundational work that has occurred over the last 3.5 years, as we've reported on that in the past. So we're very much looking forward to engaging with you all as we begin to develop the second generation of OEICE's Equity Strategic Action Plan. As a reminder, as Dora mentioned, the Equity Strategic Plan is a requirement of the Equity Resolution, and version 1 of the plan was meant to serve as a bridge to the countywide strategic planning process. As you know, we have learned a lot since February of 2020, and a lot has changed. And with that learning and change, we continue to evolve our organizational understanding and adapt our work to be responsive to the continued evolution. When this work began, I think we all thought we would be in a different place at this point in time with the countywide strategic planning. And so as we began to develop generation 2, our second generation of the Equity Strategic Action Plan, we intend for it to continue to serve as a bridge to the important and larger countywide strategic planning work so that those efforts are aligned. Before diving into the second generation of the Equity Strategic Action Plan work, we want to provide some updates on key progress over the last quarter. As you may recall, when we were last before your board in April, we provided a full update of our progress with the work included in the plan, and there's a link for your reference to that presentation in the agenda cover sheet. Since then, we've made significant progress with your direction and support to advance Civil Rights and Americans with Disability Act policy work, which includes your adoption of the county's first ever countywide Americans with Disabilities Act policy and procedure for assuring reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities, a countywide ADA coordinator, and a compliance system in Policy 211. And client civil rights policy and procedure that addresses gaps in our policy infrastructure regarding community or client civil rights in Policy 212. We're grateful for your support for civil rights implementation via this critical policy development. Let's see. So now we'll pivot and share what we're thinking for the next steps for our work. As for remaining items in the current version of the Equity Strategic Action Plan, we're continuing to work on these items and we'll report on them in the future to you in coming updates. From now until December, we'll be leaning into the work of developing revising the Equity Strategic Action Plan, and we want to be very intentional about that process. Of course, we plan to seek input and direction from you all as we do this work. Our anticipated stakeholder groups include you, the board, and the Internal Equity Leadership Council, as well as the Advisory Council on Racial Equity, and then the broader community who we serve, which includes community-based organizations and other partners. Once we have completed this critical work to engage stakeholders, we'll develop a project plan, so a plan for the plan, for creating the next version of the Equity Strategic Action Plan. We'll use the information gleaned during this step to inform and shape the project plan for updating the action plan, and we plan to thoughtfully structure and facilitate opportunities to gather feedback and share with you that with you along the way as you provide your direction. Once we have a solid project plan for updating the Equity Strategic Action Plan, we'll move into developing the plan itself and anticipate this to occur in coming spring of 2024. And we hope to be before your board in work session and eventual adoption in summer of 2024. So just a brief update for you all today, and with that, I'll hand it back to Dora.
Thank you, Amanda. And I will close with appreciation for your both direction and support, as well as that of our County Administrator, Angie, for her guidance. Ms. Snell and Ms. Horn for their leadership, and all our internal and external partners and our various teams for their diligence and hard work in operationalizing the county's commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. With that, I will hand it back to you, Chair Harrington, and the board for any comment, questions, or feedback you might have for us today.
Thank you to each of you and the other team members for helping us on this journey, and we look forward to the next steps for gaining further input internally, externally, and from the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. Next, we'll move on to our two different action items. The first one is with regard to approving a resolution and order in the matter of dissolving the Loan Review Board and adopting revised housing rehabilitation program policies. Oh, thank you. Please, Ms. Wilson, take it away.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you here this morning. My name is Shannon Wilson, and I'm Program Manager of the Office of Community Development. I do have a short slide deck for this item that was in the packet. Is it not available? I can just talk through it. Okay. All right. Well, this item before your board this morning is to approve a resolution order in the matter of dissolving the Loan Review Board and adopting revised housing rehabilitation program policies. So first, I want to provide just a very brief overview of the housing rehabilitation program. So it is one of the housing rehabilitation program began in 1978. It is one of the many programs that is funded by the county's allocation of the Federal Community Development Block Grant Program funds. And so this program, oh, there's the, thank you, Kevin, or Clerk Moss, excuse me. And so this program focuses on improving the life, health, and safety and accessibility for low-income homeowners throughout the county. So it provides funding for individual homeowners to receive critical repairs and accessibility upgrades in their homes, and allows them to stay in their homes. Often these repairs are very significant, and their homes would otherwise not be habitable. And so much of the work our office does is really funding other community-based organizations or jurisdictions to provide important services and projects throughout the county. But this is a unique part of the work we do because our staff do this work directly. So we have a small team that works one-on-one with the low-income homeowners and with contractors to complete these necessary repairs. So over the whole life of the program, there have been just under 1,400 projects completed and about 30 to 40 projects completed each year. So there are two components of the housing rehabilitation program. One is the HARDY program, which is the Home Access and Repair for Disabled and Elderly. And so that is a grant program up to $15,000 for critical home repairs. And the other is a loan program, the Deferred Interest-Bearing Loan Program called DIBBLE, which provides up to a $25,000 loan for similar home repairs. And so during the pandemic, as many things, both components of this program were paused. And as we've come back and regained operations over the past year and a half, the HARDY program has been very successful. We've had a lot of interest and a lot of need for that program. And the DIBBLE program has not experienced the same thing. So it's been challenging to get applications, but we still feel it's a very important community program, especially given where current interest rates are for home refinance or remodel. It does serve a little bit higher income level than the HARDY program with a grant. And so we feel, so as staff, we've been working on updating our strategy for getting more applicants to the DIBBLE program. So another component of why the DIBBLE program is important is that it also does provide program income to our office over time. So the loan is structured very simply. It accrues interest for 10 years at 3%, and then after that time, it doesn't accrue interest anymore. There's no interim payments, just a payment due at time of home sale. So it is a very flexible loan, but when those payments do come back to our office, they help support some of our staff costs and then go back out into the community to fund additional projects. So part of our strategy for increasing participation in this program, the first one is outreach, and so we've already begun that. So promoting at different community events, for example, this summer at the county fair, the night market, the Peruvian festival. And so we're really working to cross-promote the DIBBLE program, the Deferred Interest-Bearing Loan Program, as we promote the other work that we're doing in the community as well. And then we're also developing some additional materials to help educate the community, because a lot of people, when they hear the term loan, it doesn't sound appealing. And so really creating some frequently asked questions and other materials that help community members more easily understand what it is and gain interest in the program that way. And then the second part of our strategy, which is the reason for being here in front of your board this morning, are policy changes to increase program efficiency. And so the first one of those is to dissolve the Loan Review Board. And so the Loan Review Board, it was created, it's comprised of 5 individuals, and they would meet on an ad hoc basis to review applications for the DIBBLE program. And so they haven't met since early 2020 at this point, so it was a good opportunity for us to kind of rethink that approach and structure. And as we were evaluating the eligibility criteria for both the programs, the HARDY and the DIBBLE program, is very similar, and it's very quantitative. For example, it's if property taxes have been paid up to date. So it's kind of yes, they've been paid, or no, they have not. There's not a lot of subjective criteria in there where a loan review board could weigh in and provide some really critical feedback on that. It is really more of a checkbox to make sure individuals are eligible. And so our staff recommendation to our policy advisory board was to more closely align the approval process for the Dibble program to align it with what we were already doing for our Hardy program, which is a staff review and approval process. And so our estimate is that that would reduce the application processing time by about 4 weeks, because we wouldn't have to need to convene the additional group, and it also provides additional transparency and accessibility for the applicants themselves. The second key policy change is to delegate further policy change decisions to our Policy Advisory Board. So right now, items go to our Policy Advisory Board, which oversees the implementation of the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Program, as well as the other federal funds we administer, the Home Investment Partnerships Program and Emergency Solutions Grant Program. And then they provide recommendations to your board for approval. And so this would change just for future policy changes specific to the Housing Rehabilitation Program. So that decision-making authority would then lay with the Policy Advisory Board. And so that just gives us additional flexibility to adapt future policies to meet community need as we are out there engaging with these community members. And I did want to take a moment and highlight Commissioner Treese. So Commissioner Treese serves on the Policy Advisory Board. It is comprised of elected officials from all the jurisdictions in the county, and then a county representative as well. So just wanted to highlight you, Commissioner, and thank you for your service on the PAB. And then finally, one other aspect I wanted to highlight in relation to this request and resolution order before your board is to describe how this decision-making around the Housing Rehabilitation Program, how that's nested into overall decision-making and authority and guidance for the implementation of the Community Development Block Grant Program as a whole. So this program is one of the many that's funded with this Community Development Block Grant funding, and it is really the direction overall of the Community Development Block Grant Program is overseen by a 5-year consolidated plan. Right now we're in the middle of that. It's for 2020 to 2024. And so that is a community-based process. We get a lot of community input, do a needs analysis, and bring that to our Policy Advisory Board and then to your board for approval. And that sets the goals for that 5-year program. And then nested within that, each year is an annual action plan. And so that provides more detail to how specifically in that year with the organizations that are being funded and the work our office is doing, how we are working towards achieving those goals that were identified in the consolidated plan. So the decision-making on both of those, the action plan and the consolidated plan, would still lie with your board. They would go to the Policy Advisory Board, and then the Policy Advisory Board would recommend for approval to your board. So wanted to provide that clarification as well. And so these proposed changes on the resolution and order before your board this morning, they did go to our Policy Advisory Board in July, and the Policy Advisory Board did recommend those for approval to your board at that time. So in terms of next steps, the resolution is before you this morning, and then based on the outreach that we've been able to do this summer, we do have 4 pending deferred interest-bearing loan applications, and so we would be able to move forward and process those pending your board's approval. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions or hear any feedback that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Chair, I'd just like to thank Shannon for this presentation, but also I think it's important to recognize the entire PAB board. They've really done a great job, and there was a very robust discussion about this issue, and it was a high degree of consensus there. So let's put it that way. And I also want to thank the staff for the work that you all do in preparing for the meetings and preparing us with information local and sometimes even past that. So great job.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Good presentation, Shannon. I did have sort of a bit of a question for you, and this is in relation to the composition of the Policy Advisory Board, and just to make sure that we capture any subject matter experts that we might lose with this dissolution of this group. So would you be doing new recruitment? Is there any expertise that you're going to be missing by dissolving this group and delegating this responsibility to the current board that exists?
Thank you, Commissioner Faya. That is a great question. So the Policy Advisory Board, it is really up to each of the jurisdictions within the county it is an elected official, so which city councilor or mayor they will appoint. They can also appoint a staff person from that jurisdiction as an alternate. And so we can definitely, in conversation with the jurisdictions, ask for some background, or ask them to consider, counselors or staff who have some expertise or background in these areas. I will say, I think some of that does occur already as counselors express interest in serving on the Policy Advisory Board as well, but we can definitely consider how we might communicate more around that. So thank you.
Thank you.
So that's it from Commissioner questions and comments. I appreciate having the information in our packet with regard to these policy changes. So without further ado, Commissioners, I would ask for a motion to approve the resolution and order in the matter of dissolving the Loan Review Board and adopting the revised Housing Rehabilitation Program policies.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to a proposal to approve the purchase of real property located at 1103 Elm Street and 1105 Elm Street in Forest Grove for affordable housing and permanent supportive housing, and authorize the board chair or designee to execute all closing documents. We have already received a presentation on this matter earlier in today's meeting. So without further ado, I would ask for a motion and a second for such an action.
So move.
Second. Thank you, Commissioners. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to board announcements for our next meetings. Oh, excuse me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Willie. We have our second public communications period for this meeting. This is an opportunity for community members to speak to the board for up to 5 minutes each. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Would any members in the auditorium wish to speak for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? Not seeing anyone raise a hand or coming forward, so we will go to our online, and we have Jonathan Eder. Jonathan, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you for taking my comments. I wanted to bring the board's attention to
Sir, I can barely hear you. If you could please get closer to your mic or speak up, that would be very helpful.
Does that sound better? Can you hear me now?
Yes, it does. Much better.
Okay. I'd like to bring your attention to what appears to be one of the most dangerous intersections in all of Oregon. It's at exit 64 going westbound, right where 185th crosses Highway 26 by the Tannisbourne Mall. That intersection has multiple lanes, and the left lane is effectively missing a signal head. I had done some research into this. I spoke with several officials at ODOT who claimed that there were plans in the works to add a signal head there, but it's unclear as to when, if ever, that would happen. It's going to take a considerable amount of money, probably, and some political will. But I'm even more disturbed by the responses I received from the engineers and the local police force. One of the top engineers at ODOT suggested a solution to the problem would be to drive in the right lane rather than the left lane. And to add insult to injury, the Sheriff's Department is ticketing people for going through the red light that doesn't exist there. They are positioning themselves in extremely dangerous areas on painted islands. And in the process of serving these citations, they are doing precisely what they are ticketing people for. They are going through red lights. They are cutting off oncoming traffic. When they are presented with this, they say, well, we have emergency training. Well, that's all well and good, but the public doesn't have emergency training. And most people don't know how to avert collision with an oncoming motorcycle cop. Some of the responses I've gotten from the police force are, well, we don't believe you, which, not to sound too hyperbolic, is kind of reminiscent of the George Floyd incidences where police don't believe what their people are telling them when they're being strangled. They say if it were so urgent that ODOT would do something. Well, that to me is incredibly callous and indifferent to what appears to be a genuine problem, and the police obviously know it's a genuine problem because they are ticketing people there, but they are cynically unconcerned with the resultant accidents that might happen. And this intersection is in the top 5% of the over 500 lights that are in Oregon. I think something should be done about it. And I was wondering if any of you were aware of it or if there were any plans to do something about it. And that's the complete comments that I have.
Thank you for your comments, sir. We have heard your input for today and appreciate your taking the time to highlight your perspective and share that with the board. Thank you.
All right. Would any other members online via Zoom like to provide public comment on any county-related item for up to 5 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any additional hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. He did announce in the room earlier, so come on. I invite you up. I'm just explaining. We would ask you to state your name for the record as you begin your comments. Thank you.
My name is Mary Beamer, and I am a resident in Aloha, actually physically Beaverton, but Aloha, and my property abuts the new pod village that they're going to be putting in there. It abuts the church there. I have come to many of these meetings. I've been in meetings with Jesse, Jess, Commissioner Fye. I have signed up for our neighborhood watch. And I feel like it doesn't matter how much I do, how much I say. Nobody's listening. And you say you're for the people, but I've been here from the beginning, and you're not, because I live there. I'm going to have to live this nightmare. There's people that are living it right now that have come to some of our meetings, that have lived close to these villages, and they said it's like they're being under siege nonstop. You're hearing loud noises, there's fighting, there's fires. You have to constantly be watching. And I know that you guys all say you live in Washington County. Commissioner Feist says it's her neighborhood. It's not her neighborhood. It's my neighborhood. I'm the one now that has to live in terror. I've actually filmed like on a Sunday morning where it's peaceful and quiet. I can hear my little water fountain in the backyard. I guarantee you, the minute they move this pod village in, I will not be hearing the hummingbirds flying by. I won't be able to hear my water fountain in the backyard. I'll be in sheer terror. I can't leave my back doors open. I mean, that's the reality. And I think that, yes, everything sounds wonderful. We've got all these great people that are going to make sure the backdoor, outdoor, or whatever it is, the committee that's going to be monitoring it. Yeah. And nice people, great people, but they're not going to be there every day. They're not going to have to live this nightmare that I have to live now. You know, I bought that house because I thought it was going to be peaceful and quiet. I backed to a church. You know, the loudest noise I hear is the banging of the drums on Sundays or whatever, you know, which I'm okay with. But now it's going to be sheer terror. it's going to be sheer terror for me. And I don't think you guys understand that. I get that there's this need to, house the houseless. But why am I and my neighbors sacrificing for them? Why do we have to pay the price? Not just our taxes, but which we all do, but the price of our peace, our security. It's like I'm sick to my stomach all the time. I'm so sick and tired of oh, can you join this meeting? Jesse, Jess, and yeah, nice enough people, great. Commissioner Fye, the first time I had the meeting with her, after our Sunday meeting at the church, months and months ago, she actually touched my arm and said, Mary, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay for me. It's like, and we have to use our indoor voices, and we have to be respectful, and we have to be nice, and we're not allowed to clap. We're not allowed to, use foul language. But, honestly, I am mad as hell. I'm upset because I have no say in this. And now I find myself negotiating. Oh, okay, so I said, okay, let's put a higher fence around the whole church property. Oh, well, they decided they're going to put a higher wooden fence around the pod. That's not what I asked for. It's just, I don't want to see this. I don't want to have to see this every day. Now I get to have 30 people parading past my backyard. How's that sound? What is that like? Would you like it? Would you like your grandkids coming over? Would you like having a backyard barbecue? Would you feel at peace with that? I mean, really, would you? These are not people that are going to work every day and keeping to themselves. It's not moving 2 neighbors into your next door. This is moving 30 people that have, issues. They have problems. They have drug addiction. I'm going to have to worry about needles being thrown over the fence. I've got a dog. Do I have to worry about that now? Yeah. So I don't feel like you guys have been for any of us neighbors at all. You had this agenda. It didn't matter what we were going to say. You were going to vote yes for these pod villages. And you didn't listen to a word that any of us said, because there's not one single neighbor that I know that is okay for this, that's going to be living this every day. And so you need to hear this. I'm Mary Beamer. I'm somebody. I should count. I get up every day. I work. I took time off today. It's like I go to work every day. I bought my home. I'm trying to do the right thing, and yet I feel like I'm being penalized now. And it doesn't seem fair. It just doesn't seem fair. So that's all I've got to say.
All right, no other hands were online, Madam Chair. Oh.
Once again, we made the announcement for in-room testimony earlier. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Shirley Evers, and from the county, and sorry, he said it so fast and I didn't realize how the system worked. I realize you now are putting in another place in Forest Grove. I hope you look at what else you can do besides just building. A building isn't supporting the fact that it's helping them, but it's not helping us too. You need to realize that the more you build, the more homeless people you're going to be getting. And maybe there's something else you can do. I don't know, maybe at the fairgrounds, have them learn some different trades, help these people learn to do something else so they're not going in people's yards. There's one thing, in the past 2 months, I picked up mail out of the garbage can at the park, near the shelter, and in somebody else's street. All the mailboxes were open. People are going through the mailboxes, and there was a check to an insurance company in one of them, and I reported it and give it to the police, so beware of that, because it's happening more often. I used to work for the post office. I think that we need to do more. Also giving them something to do, maybe have a place to have them help with projects, whether it's woodworking or gardening, something to help them, because they show that for veterans, they have farms in the Midwest over 20 years where it helps with PTSD and brain injuries. And now Washington has like 5. I would love to see a veterans farm and help with that kind of a thing. I think we need to maybe put together our brains and help, maybe ask some of the people that are homeless too, what else might be helpful. Just giving out a place to live and free meals, I don't believe is really getting to the point of where it's helping them build up to help themselves up, to help them get to a better spot. It's just, oh, it's free. Sad to say. I would like to know the committees and meetings, because I like to personally talk to some of you. And I think that the fairgrounds needs to be better used as what it was used for the community. I went there this year, and sad to say, I was not happy to have a movie on blasting when they were having the FFA and 4-H program for their auction, and I couldn't hear it because it was so loud. I was very disappointed. My grandpa was one of them that helped put that fair there for the community. I see how we can use it and put the old jail back and show like they do in Vancouver, how they have people show them how to do blacksmithing and things like that, and bring back what our culture came from and where we came from, our ancestors. Briefly, don't know my time, but thank you very much, and I hope to be back again.
I do not have any more online, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Moving on now to board announcements. Our next set of Board of Commissioner meetings will be next week, Tuesday, September 12th. Work session will start at 9 a.m. Board meeting will convene at 10, and then we'll resume the work session after. On Thursday, September 14th, we'll be having our monthly roundtable. It will be starting at 1 p.m. at the Clean Water Services Durham Conference Center in Tigard. Then later that evening, the Board of Commissioners and the Clean Water Services Advisory Committee, also known as SWAC, will be having an annual get-together starting at 5 p.m. at Cook Park in Tigard. The following Tuesday, September 19th, we'll have our pair of meetings, work session starting at 9, then board meeting at 10, and then our work session reconvening after that. And on Tuesday, September 26th, we have our monthly afternoon work session starting at 2 and a board meeting that starts at 6:30 p.m. Are there any other board announcements for today? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you.